Welcome to Smashed Avo Property. Today I've got a really close friend of mine, Will Bircher, and he wanted to have a little discussion with me about buying a property and what he should be looking out for and all that sort of stuff. So I essentially thought, well, let's just record the conversation, see what comes out of it, and hopefully you guys get some pretty good insights and you might have some of the same questions. So hopefully that we answer some questions for you. I'm keen to get Will back on throughout, his whole property purchasing journey. So if he's got any other questions along the process, I'll get him back on and we can walk through him and all that sort of stuff. It's a little bit of a different type of podcast today, but hopefully some of the people who are looking to buy a property get a ton out of it.
One of the big questions I had was, did you actually make it like a physical checklist of what you wanted?
As always, seek your own professional financial, legal, taxation, and property investing advice for your current situation. Everything we talk about is just our opinion and general in nature and should never be considered as personal advice. So without any further ado, let's get house hunting with Will. Will Bircher, welcome to Smashed Avo Property.
Thank you very much, mate. Good to be here.
How are you, buddy?
I've been good, mate. Just keeping busy in this strange time. So just keeping busy.
It's a pretty hectic time. So for the listeners, Will is a very close friend of mine. I think we've got a couple of stories that we probably shouldn't share with the listeners. So Will, and he just texted me out of the blue the other day and said, "Hey, got a couple of questions. Looking to get into my first house or property, and wanted to give you shoot a couple of questions across to you." So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to just record it because I'm sure there'd be a ton of people out there or a ton of listeners out there that might have the same sort of questions or be going through the same thought process and all that sort of stuff. So I thought, let's hit the record button and see what comes out of it. I don't know what he's about to ask me, and I just for all the listeners' benefits and Will for yourself, like I don't know your exact financial circumstances or anything like that, and I can't give you any sort of personal advice. I can just sort of give you some general information about the knowledge base and all that sort of stuff. So don't take anything with a grain of salt, but hopefully I can educate you in some form or way.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Yeah, I just literally am probably after this is my starting point where like in the next 4 to 5 months I'm probably looking at buying a first property. Like I didn't even know myself if I want to it wants to be like a straight up investment, or if I want it to actually be a home that I live in, that's probably what even stage I'm at now.
Yeah, for sure. So given I do know sort of your personal circumstance and your life and everything like that, I mean, you could be at the point now where you'd be happy to move out and get your own place and all that sort of stuff. I mean, how would you feel about that? I know that you're at home and you're comfortable there, and you don't have to move out anytime soon. So there is a potential to chuck the funds into an investment property. But I mean, how are you feeling on a personal level? Do you want your own space? Do you want to get out to somewhere different? I mean, how's that sort of looking for you?
Probably in the last 6 months, it's just like when everyone's been home and it's just like I'm probably at a stage where I need my own space. So, and that's sort of another factor as well. Like I can sort of, haven't fully researched about the first home buyers grant, but like that's another option. Like if I live in it, do that first home buyers option where I sort of live in it, I want to then decide, look, this is going to cost a lot of money each week. Like, am I going to be able to do this? And that's sort of, honestly, probably what I'm going to do, like probably maybe a year live in it and then look at, turning into it like an investment and go from there.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I think like the biggest thing that I say to anyone who asks me that sort of question is like, regardless if you're buying an investment or, a place to live in, always look at it as an owner-occupier appeal. So you want to look at purchasing the property as if, you would want to live there as other people that want to live there, because ultimately, that's what drives up the price of property over time is that demand behind people wanting to live in that property. So I think if you take it from that mindset, if you take from that outset, and we'll walk you through the process and, the financials and all that sort of stuff later on down the line. But if you're always looking at the property as if like, okay, well, I could potentially live in here, then I think you're off to a good start anyway.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much how I said as well. Cause like, I've got a sort of like a small background in property, being like in a job where it's in the property industry, and then my uni degree sort of in the I did a Bachelor of Business, majoring in property at UWS. So that sort of helped me sort of know sort of what I'm looking for. But So
is that the Parramatta one?
Yeah, that's at UWS at Parramatta.
Yeah, okay, I remember that. I was either going to do that or the Bachelor of Housing that I did. I wonder which one was your course any good or not?
You know, it was good, but it was a lot of it was pretty much all about valuation, which I personally didn't find that interesting. So that was a bit of a shame. But like other than that, like there's some development side of it. There's also a lot of stuff on industrial and commercial, which I'm not huge on. Well, I don't know much about it. So that's sort of, I wish it was more about residential, which I find a lot more interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. Mine had a bit of I had a bit of a residential focus. Like I got to learn some construction stuff and how property was built from the ground up. Then there was a bit of like database stuff in there and analytics and all that sort of stuff. So I got a good mix. I think it was good. Yeah, no, that probably sounds better. Like I'm sort of more interested in the construction side as well. So I probably, but no, I did end up doing a cert for in construction. So that fulfilled that side, I guess. Yeah, nice. So given you are looking for a place to live in, and I think that's what you're alluding to before is like you're probably up for having a place to live in. You're probably segmented to the area that you're in. And I mean, how far, like, do you want to be close to mum and dad, or do you want to, are you happy to branch out? Because I know you personally, you work, 40 minutes away from mum and dad. So, there's a big range that you could potentially move into.
Yeah. So that's also my thing as well. I'm looking around my area, which is more like, a lot of acreage, a lot of that sort of thing. Like, that's where I'm currently. We're on 15 acres at the moment, so that's pretty cool. But I'm keeping my eyes wide open because like I'm not putting any like blinkers on in terms of like there's not like I don't know. I'm looking down on areas and stuff like that. So that's sort of a good thing. So I'm open to moving away, but definitely keeping like within I don't know a 30-minute radius of where I'm currently living, which gives me heaps of options anyway.
Yeah, 100%. There's a big range there. I think, the biggest thing again is just is trying to find some sort of uniqueness, some sort of differential, because I know, the properties in the area or the area that you are quite, they can be quite developed. They can be quite the same. Everything can be quite similar. And I was even listening to, another podcast the other day, and they were talking about Rouse Hill and how like Rouse Hill has just been completely overdeveloped. And, I don't know, I haven't done the numbers, but they were saying that, property prices in Rouse Hill, specifically units and, off the plan purchase and all that stuff have just been dropping like crazy because there's just so much supply there. It's completely oversupplied. So they have to drop the prices to be able to sell these things. And I think that's something that you're probably well aware of. I would recommend to stick away from, because I just think, you even if you got in now and they are cheaper and they're more appealing because they are in that lesser value, standard box, then it's appealing to get into. But I do think also, if you're looking for that / investment play, number one, I think you probably outgrow it sometime soon anyway. And number two, I just can't see a place that's so oversupplied increase in value like crazy over the next 10, 20 years. And I think they're the goggles that you should have on is that long-term play.
Yeah, well, that's funny you say off the plans. That's one thing I know myself, being in the actual working for a home builder. I know myself that I would probably stick away from, just because I would probably like to buy something first of all develop in it like that's already been established, and myself personally, I would just like to have land beneath me. Like no matter what size the block is, I would definitely be looking at some sort of a block. Like that's probably what I'm like a 650 to 500 like sort of meter square block. So there is potential just to have a bit of room, and having land beneath you in this time it's just worth gold, just land.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I get that question a lot. Is a lot of people ask me like, should I buy in, the major cities and the major hubs where there's going to be constant demand, but, then I'm buying a lesser quality asset. I might be buying like a 1-bedroom, apartment in an older block or something like that, to stick at that lower price point. But I think one of the things you have going for you is that land content. And, there's this thing called land banking, which essentially, someone buys a big block of land and holds it off the generations and generations. And, after those generations, that's when the value increases. So if you are, and if you are thinking about purchasing around the area that you're in now and it's in to live, that's fine. But I think, also have the mindset that you want to be able to hold on to this long into the future, 30, 40 years into retirement. Yeah. And be happy to keep it as a rental or an investment, or even if it's your family home for the rest of your life, it's still that longer term play.
That's exactly right. Well, like that's the thing when I'm tossing up, because I've got two mates who, funny you mentioned about Rouse Hill, they actually both bought two separate apartments. They both bought an apartment off the plans for apartments in Rouse Hill. So it's funny you mentioned that, because like I told them at the time, I just said, and this was 2 years ago, and the apartments still haven't been built yet. So, and that is something that I couldn't do. That's me personally anyway.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good that you're aware of that. And I think, it's trying to get your head around about what you actually do want, what your goals and risk profile are and all that sort of stuff. And then matching it to what you already know, which is pretty decent anyway. And so I think, the first thing I kind of always start with is what are your goals? Like what do you want out of the property, which I think we've established is being able to hold on for a long period of time. But is there anything else that you want to get out of it?
Okay. Well, first of all, it'd probably be getting, because as you said, I'm in sort of the Hawkesbury region currently. So that area is it's really nice. Like when you're in the Hawkesbury, the roads around there are really nice. Like, traffic's all right. But as soon as you head back towards that Rouse Hill, the traffic just sounds really terrible. So I'm sort of looking for like a place where it's a bit closer to work, which is like the northwest, sort of like the inner, that sort of area of Sydney, where it's sort of like there's a lot of jobs around the area. So I'm sort of probably looking to come a bit more forward, and then giving an option for like just keeping travel a bit better. But other than that, and public transport as well. Public transport in Hawkesbury is not very good, so that's probably another thing I'm looking for as well. Sort of a place where it's got a good or potential for public transport.
Yeah. I think public transport's key, and I only fly back into Sydney 2 or 3 times a year, so I've been able to see that the train line develop and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know specifics about where all the connection points and all that sort of stuff. But is there a point where is kind of in that sort of 30k radius, but also connects up with the train line and all that sort of stuff as well? Like, would you consider going in the other direction, like Seven Hills, or past halfway through?
Definitely. Yeah, sorry. I would definitely Seven Hills. I was actually looking at that because I actually came from an area which is like literally 2 suburbs away from that place. So, and that was honestly such a good area to grow up. It was just like easy to get to, close to all the main highways, close to, and I looked at those sort of, and they've now become out of that budget that I would probably be looking at. So like I have a look there, but yeah, that sort of area around, it's just hard. It's hard to get into.
Yeah, that's cool. I think this is a common thing that people come to the conclusion as well. It's like, oh, I'm priced out of this area, I can't buy in there now. There's this process called gentrification, and it's like, younger people moving into the area, older people moving out of the area. It's kind of like the hipsters, the arties, they all move in, and then they all start like little cafes, and it gentrifies that area, becomes more valuable. Like people want to start moving into that area. And what a lot of people try and do is kind of find, those growth corridors. So they try and find the suburbs where gentrification's already happened. Like the younger people have moved in, there's hip new cafes, the property prices have really increased, and then try and find the suburbs sort of surrounding those suburbs that have actually or started that process a little bit as well, because they've been, same exactly what you're saying. People have been priced out of that specific suburb that's already increased in value, but there might be surrounding suburbs that have a potential to have the same sort of streak of gentrification.
Yeah. So, and Mike, another question sort of based on that, like, what would you say would be key indicators of, say, like I don't know, modernized area or like gentrification, as you were saying, of like an area? Like, would it be like new transport opportunities? Would it be, I don't know, new schools? Like, what do you look for in terms of like trying to find areas like that?
I think one of the biggest like historical indicators, I actually read a book, or not a book, it was like a manuscript on it from one of the expert leading, Peter Kaluzos. He's really good insights on it. But essentially, historically, what it is younger people moving in and like into like sort of older style buildings, and then doing nice renovations, making the front look really nice, then starting little cafes and restaurants and all that sort of stuff. So not necessarily brand new areas. So I'd personally avoid getting into absolutely brand new areas, especially like big estates and stuff like that, because if there's a brand new estate and someone's just built a house on it, and then there's 4 or 5 other stages that can still be built on, in 3 years' time, if you wanted to sell your property, then someone would rather buy a brand new house on a lot down the road than your 3-year-old property. So not necessarily brand new, but I would try and find something, at least sort of 5 to 7 years old, that it has gone through, a bit of a redevelopment. You can kind of see some new stuff coming in. You can kind of see some new restaurants coming in and cafes and transport. Definitely. I think you're onto a key there. And, knowing your personal situation, I think, being close to schools and all that sort of stuff will be pretty important too.
Yeah, of course. Like, and that sort of that probably comes back to house and land packages and sort of fixed price sort of like new homes, I guess. So that's sort of, yeah, as you said, trying to avoid that if I can.
Yeah, for sure. I would personally. I mean, there's not all house and land estates are bad investments. Like there's plenty of people that have made money off them, but generally they're a bigger culprit because of that supply and demand ratio. If there's tons of land to build all of these new houses on, then there's going to be a ton of oversupply, and it's going to take a long time for there to be heaps of demand for people to live in that area, which will overcome the amount of supply. So, if you're thinking long-term play, it might work out, but historically, and if you can put your money to better use earlier on, then you may as well, you know what I mean?
One of the big questions I had was, did you actually make it like a physical checklist of what you wanted? Like, so you sort of made like a actual, I don't know, a document where you sort of just ticked off sort of what the sort of things you're looking for? Did you actually make a copy of what you want, like a checklist?
Yeah, I think for my first purchase, it wasn't like, no, not really. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I just got really lucky. But me now, just being the person that I am and like being intrigued and like wanting to learn as much as possible. Like I've got at least 100 points of things that I want to look out for when buying a property. Now, in saying that, a property doesn't have to tick all of those boxes. It just has to tick the most important ones. So, for one of them might be like a north facing backyard. And what that means is, you're getting that nice sun all day through your backyard. And hopefully you've got like sliding doors or something out the back and the sun's coming through into the house and warming up the house, and all that sort of stuff. Now, if it's located, if that particular property is located in somewhere like Rouse Hill, as we were just saying, even though it's got ticks that box, it's probably not something I'd invest in. So I would definitely, and I'm more than happy to, give you the checklist or guide you on your own checklist of your own things that you want to find. But don't, be so pedantic. Like I think the biggest problem with me is I'm over analytical. And I for all of my property purchases, it's taken over 6 months because I'm so critical of what I purchase.
Wow.
And so, apart from my last one was pretty quick because I used a buyer's agent. But the first two, I just overanalyze everything all the time.
On that point of the buyer's agent, would you recommend buyer's agents? Like in your personal opinion, obviously you used one for your last one, but was that because you've already sort of, I don't know,
What I've always said is if I was to buy in another state, in an area that I didn't know, I would use a buyer's agent. The biggest thing for a buyer's agent is, especially using a local buyer's agent, is they know the pockets, they know the real estate agents really well. They know, all of these things that we're talking about, distance to train station. They know the little walkways or the little cut throughs to get to those train stations. So they'll be able to tell you if there's, something wrong with the drainage on that street. Like they should know all of that sort of stuff. And really, and they know if they're buying a property, they're probably sold and bought, hundreds of the same type of property in that specific area. So they know the area really well. They know what value a property's worth, probably a lot better than most would. So, I would definitely recommend using a buyer's agent to anyone. But if you can if you can get that information for yourself, you know the area really well, Will. So, you probably, not gonna pay someone to tell you, this street's really busy because you drive past that street every day.
Yeah, that's probably the thing. Yeah, definitely. I've heard of people using them. I've got friends who have used them in obviously when they buy. I've got friends who have bought in other states, and that's when they've used them. So yeah, probably that's probably.
And the only other time is if you were really time constrained, if you just didn't have time to research and go to open homes and all that sort of stuff, I'd definitely recommend using one. But if you're more than happy to do the work yourself, then I think you'll be fine.
Perfect. So I'm just trying to.
What about deposit and all that sort of stuff? Are you happy to go over? Do you know about loan to value ratios and how much of a deposit you need and all that sort of stuff? Are you happy to, borrow a whole lot of money, or are you a bit nervous about it?
That's probably where because my deposit will be quite low. I won't be looking at a big deposit, so I'll probably be going towards more the lower end of the deposit sort of route. So so no, definitely I'll be I don't know, sort of the negative effects of going through that lower
No, there's not necessarily a negative effect. The only thing you might encounter is LMI, which is lender's mortgage insurance. And essentially, if you have less than a 20% deposit, you have to pay lender's mortgage insurance unless there's a government scheme and stuff that is out at the moment that pays that for you.
Yeah, but that's also that could be the other thing that government sort of. I think there is a government incentive at the moment, so that could also be another factor as well.
Yeah, the first home buyer scheme, they allow you to buy with a 5% deposit without paying. They'll pay lender's mortgage insurance for you, something, I don't know, but you don't have to pay lender's mortgage insurance. Yeah. So, but in terms of using a 5 or a 10% deposit doesn't bother you. I know, because I'm just asking because a lot of people that I get this question are I'm over leveraged. I'm borrowing too much money. I'm fearful of it. Do you feel pretty comfortable with it, or?
Yeah. So, I'm sort of the, as long as I can get something, but I'll be right. But it's just getting this first deposit, and I'm finding just really, really hard. As a single person, no partner, that's sort of the hardest thing for me, because I'm not scared of borrowing money. It's just that initial getting that deposit, getting the actual investment, that is probably the hardest thing in my mental just to get through at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And what are you putting anything in place to help you save? Like, are you restricting your money in any way? Are you watching your spending? I mean, what can we do to fast track that?
Yeah. So, well, I'm pretty bad. Like, I used to, like, last 2 years, shocking. Like, just bad. Like, and I just didn't have anything based. I went and then I've made multiple accounts now, and that's helped. That's been probably the biggest thing. Like, going out and stuff, I know what I've got each week. I'll put it aside. And then, I like just having different accounts. I've got my spending account. I've got obviously saving account. Then I'll have like a holidays one. So that's obviously, that's doing nothing at the moment. But like, that's sort of been the biggest thing. Like, just, and just that switch of, just who I hang around actually as well. Cause like last couple of years have been people who have just not provided any sort of support in terms of like, they're wanting to buy a home. So that's sort of another switch as well. I've had to sort of stick away from some people that I used to hang around. So that's sort of probably the other biggest thing as well, who I've sort of associated with this last year, I guess.
Mate, I think they're so important. Like, they're two massive points. The people you hang around, like I was just talking about this in a recent video. Is like, I remember when I was younger and like the people I hang around, like they had all like really fast cars, and I was like, well, like I need to get a nice fast car. Like I need to, I'm coming of age. I'm starting to earn a little bit of money. I need to buy a nice car, but that sets you back so much. And I'm sure like you're in the same ground. Like you're hanging out with people that like to spend money and go out and all that sort of stuff, which is fine. And like you're allowed to do it, but limit yourself to it. And I think like breaking up your accounts into buckets is super important. Like if you allocate $200 a week or whatever into your spending, then like by all means you can go out on a Saturday, but once you've spent $200, like you're staying home for the rest of the week.
Yeah. And yeah, with Matt, 100%, like what you said about who you hang around. It's just like, it just switched. I clicked the switch one week, like I was out all weekend. And you sort of look back at the end of the weekend and you're like, look, if I can go and do that, like that's fine. But I'm not going to get this first deposit if I keep doing that. So I just knew that I had to switch up and create. I just went out one weekend, created those different accounts, spoke to someone about, what accounts sort of have. I almost based it off, the Barefoot Investor. I sort of based it a little bit off that. Like I sort of made my own version of it, because like there was a bit too many. There was too many. I think I've got 3, and like that to me sort of not overcomplicated, and that's just the way it's working.
All it really is, like even 2, like even it just being able to like have the discipline to put your savings somewhere and then to put your spending somewhere else, and say to yourself, I'm not spending anything more than what's in my spending account. That's such a big thing. Once that light bulb goes off for most people, like it's a big game changer. So I think you're definitely on the right track.
Yeah. No, so I think it's just getting this a deposit is the hardest thing, and then picking an area and picking what, because like definitely I could pick somewhere that like I could live, and it'd be a lot easier to find a place for me to just where I want to live, because I'd probably be happy to live closer to this 45-minute mark from work. But if I want to pick an investor, if I want to actually pick something that I can rent out, then I don't know that's what I need to look at. I need to know, I don't think I could go in this area, because I think I need to be closer to sort of public transport, schools, that sort of a thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that will definitely have future demand, you know what I mean? And that's what you want to have. That's what drives up prices. And I think, if you're comfortable to live it out, as you said before, living there for 12 months or 2 years or whatever it may be, and just know in the back of your head that you'll always be able to hold on to it, then you'll be fine, because the biggest cost of property really is the transaction cost. It costs about 5 to 6% to buy a property of the purchase price and about 3% to get out. So, one of the biggest savings is just being able to hold on to properties. And if you're not, and that's why I asked you if you're, comfortable with being over leveraged and everything else before, but, if you're not too over leveraged and you get into your first one, although it might not be super ideal for you, but you know in the back of your head that you're going to be holding it onto it forever, and there are other people that are going to want to live in there in the future, then happy days.
Yeah, and that's also another thing. It's just sort of like, I would be scared of like making. That's probably another thing is scared to making the wrong choice. Like, yeah, you can get a property, but like that's sort of just like a fear of mine, just making the wrong choice, buying the wrong area, and it sort of doesn't get any growth. But that's sort of, I guess that's every investment you sort of make.
One thing that I heard a little while ago, which was really interesting, is, there's what you're talking about right now is called opportunity cost, which is essentially, you could have bought property A, but you bought property B. Property A is increasing value, 100%, when property B is only increasing value by 80%. But someone put it pretty simply is like, everyone in Australia that bought a property has got opportunity cost apart from the one person who bought the best performing property in the last 10 years. Like, you're always going to look back and go, oh, I could have bought that, at that time, but you're not going to know until the future. Like, we don't know how an asset's going to perform over the next 10 years. All we can really do is look how it's performed over the last 30 years and presume that it's going to perform the same in the future. Like, that's our best indicator. And I guess that's like, if you stick to what we've been talking about in the fundamentals and understanding those concepts and terms, then, you can get it right and tick, majority of the boxes for that purpose without, the fear of, oh, I could have bought, this other property in this other area and I would have been better off. Like, all we can really do. And that's another factor of, brand new properties is they're brand new. We don't have, the history of their performance. We don't know how they've performed over time. With these older type of buildings, if it's a 30-year-old, unit or whatever, in a double brick complex, built in the 60s, 70s, they're built like tanks, man. They're solid. And you can actually see, how much they sold for when they were originally built and how much they're valued at now. And you can calculate, how much growth there is every year on them. So at least you can have that sort of backing and fundamental between it. And that might not be the type of building that you're after, but what I'm saying is, like, even if you bought a house, on a smaller block of land or whatever that was built 30 or 40 years ago, you can still track how that's performed over time and have confidence that it should continue to do the same in the future. Yeah,
that's definitely a thing with the developed sort of side of it. When you see those sort of older apartments in the older sort of areas, you can see from the start, you have access to that information, but you can go back and look at, I guess, like decades of information on those properties.
Yeah, 100%.
I had another question about, obviously, this one's about, like, when you went about getting your home loan for the first time, what were you looking for in it? Like, obviously, if it's all personal preference, but like, was there any sort of big indicators that you were looking for in a first home loan sort of thing?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people focus on, the rate, but it's more about the way that you structure things. And obviously, like, I would highly recommend going and speaking to a mortgage broker. I'll actually put you in contact with my mortgage broker. He's an absolute gun. But a lot of people focus on the rate where it's not necessarily about the rate. It's more about the package and the setup. So the biggest thing for me, and I preach this all the time, is this thing called an offset account. So what an offset account is, simply it's attached to your loan. So the funds that you put in the offset account actually reduce the amount that's calculated of interest on your loan. So say you had a $500,000 loan and you had $10,000 in your offset account. Well, you'd only be paying interest on $490,000. So it actually reduces by the amount that's in there. And that, for me, that's super critical because you're not just putting your savings into, a bank account that's going to be earning, 1%, 2% these days in interest. You're going to be putting all your savings into an offset account that's going to be saving you, 3-4% off your mortgage. So, it's you're not earning money, you're reducing money. It's a weird thing, but like if you're earning money, then you have to pay tax on it. If you're reducing money, then you don't have to. You know what I mean? If you're reducing interest, you don't have to. So, I think that's the biggest thing is the package, really. Like, look out for the package. Obviously, rate's important. You don't want to be going on a 6% interest rate. But if they're relatively competitive, it's more about the package. And I think, as I said, like, no financial advice here whatsoever, but definitely go and speak to a mortgage broker, and they'll be able to guide you in what they think the best package is. And different banks also have different borrowing capacities. So you might go to one bank and they'll say, oh, you can only borrow 500. And then you might go to another bank and they'll say, well, you can actually borrow 550. And, and it might not seem a lot, but 50 grand can actually get you into a much better asset. So first and foremost, and that's what a mortgage broker will do for you. They'll actually shop around and see where they can get the most for you.
Yeah, so that's definitely, we've got that's probably a big factor as well, picking a mortgage broker. But yeah, like that's it'd be good to get a hold of your one, sort of just at least someone that can do a good job. So that's probably, that's good advice, that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I always bang on about is like just having a team of an A team around you, like actually having people that, are not getting money from you, but you're paying them. So you're paying them for a service, but can give you some really good advice as well. Yeah.
And they, financially wise, obviously they know their stuff, and they know.
Yeah, exactly. And a mortgage broker, you're not even paying. Like, the bank pays a mortgage broker once the loan goes through. So it doesn't hurt or cost or anything to go and have a conversation with one. Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. So it's just generally just in terms of what to look for. So no, that's, you pretty much said exactly sort of what I was looking for. Just a general steer into the right way of thinking when to look.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're definitely on the right track. You got the fundamentals. I think the biggest thing is not what to look for, it's what to look out for. Like, if you know what not to buy, then you're really honing in on what it is you should be looking out for. And I think, even though you're still a couple of months out from getting into it, start going to open homes and start, getting to see what's out there, start getting a feel for, the prices and what you're looking for. And after a couple of months, you'll have a really good knack of what makes a good property, what doesn't make a good property, what you're looking for, what you're not looking for, and as I said, have that owner occupier appeal. Like, if you're happy to live in it, then someone else is happy to live in it.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest factor. So that's what I'm just tossing up, and that's just a personal thing. But just tossing up. Because I wouldn't even know how much it costs to live out of home, and I worked it out, like going off some of the home loan sort of calculators roughly, and it would be as a single person on a single income, it would be a stretch, but. As I was saying before, just getting that deposit, getting something, at least I've got the option to then put it out for rent, or if I want to try and live in it myself, I can do that. Yeah,
100%. And that's what I would say for you in your situation. And, I would also think about the future as well. Like, you're a single person at the moment, but things can change pretty quickly. Like, I moved to, I was dating my wife now for a year, moved states after a year later, I got married. Now we're 2 years or 3 years later and we're having a kid. So, 5 or 6 years time, things can change pretty rapidly. So even though you're looking at it with goggles at the moment, know that life does change. Yeah, exactly. So you might be able to move out there now and live in it and be happy. But as long as you've got that security that worst case scenario, you could move back home and have that safety net.
Which I do, which should probably is also a blessing as well. I've got the opportunity to move back home within heartbeat.
And still be able to rent that house out comfortably, then, it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So, no, anyway, I appreciate your time on that.
Mate, no worries. Give me a call anytime. I actually miss you, mate. We've got to chat more.
Mate, Melbourne, Sydney, we got once we're open, we're back on.
A ton, mate. Sounds good. All right, mate. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for your help.
I really appreciate Will coming on and being up for us to record the conversation. It's pretty nerve-wracking to jump on the phone without anything prepared and just fire some questions away and share a bit of your personal story and everything like that. So I really appreciate it, Will. Thanks again for letting us record the conversation, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that have the same questions, and we'll get a ton out of it as well. I'm always looking for more guests to come onto the show. If you're under 30 and have one or more investment properties, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, I would love to talk to you about it. Even if you're interested into getting into the property sector, let's have a chat. The main focus is to help other soon-to-be young investors with tips and tricks along the journey, learn from the mistakes that we have made, and ignite the fire to set themselves up financially for the rest of their lives. If you're interested in sharing a story, you can go to jordandeong.com/podcast, where there's a podcast inquiry button at the top that will guide you through the next steps. If you want to see what else I'm up to, you can go to YouTube and type in Jordan de Jong, where you'll find the Smashed Avo Property podcast being hosted on YouTube and plenty of other content that I'm putting out consistently. If you're keen for more content like this, make sure you subscribe and please leave us a review with any feedback for future podcasts. And until next time, happy house hunting.